Vice President J.D. Vance just got hit with some pretty rough news about his future career plans. And honestly, if you needed a good laugh heading into the weekend, consider this your early holiday gift. Alright, on to the story. J.D. Vance, Vice President, self-styled culture warrior, and occasional defender of questionable furniture, is a man who holds some very firm beliefs, or at least he says he does. The funny part is, those beliefs somehow end up contradicting each other more often than not. Remember, this is the same guy who once compared Donald Trump to America's Hitler and then decided to become his vice president. A true pillar of consistency and conviction, right? And while Vance's personal life has been making headlines, and not the flattering kind, we've talked about that in other videos, one thing has remained crystal clear throughout his career. J.D. Vance really wants to run for president someday. Earlier this year, he made that pretty obvious. Here's what he had to say.
So we're going to win the midterms. We're going to do everything that we can to win the midterms. And then after that, I'm going to sit down with the President of the United States and talk to him about it. And look, if Marco eventually runs for president, then that's we can cross that bridge when we come to it. But look, if you get to
Donald Trump wants to design the next ticket.
I know this. I
You like to take control of that.
Yeah, but but people have asked me, well, do you see Marco as a rival? First of all, if either one of us end up running, it's a long ways in the future, and neither of us is entitled to it. So I think it would be ridiculous for me to say, well, Marco's a rival. No. Marco's a colleague.
Man, is it even possible for that guy not to come off as smug? I'm just saying. But don't worry, this story actually has a pretty entertaining twist at the end. Kind of like the happy ending Vance claims he gets every time he plops down on the couch with a book, though that might just be his version of events. Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Vance insists that whether he runs for president depends entirely on how the midterms shake out. So before we dive deeper into his ambitions, let's take a quick look at how things are shaping up.
Okay, 2025 U.S. House special elections. Dems outrunning Kamala Harris. A lot of blue here. A lot of blue, which is what I think the nation might look like a year from now if these results hold. Arizona 7. You see a 17 outperformance of Kamala Harris. 23 points in Florida 1. 16 points in Florida 6. 13 points in Tennessee 7. 28 points in Texas 28. And then 17 points in Virginia 11. So we've seen it throughout the nation, whether you go from the suburbs of Washington, D.C., all the way to the southwest in Arizona, whether you're looking at Texas, whether you're looking at Tennessee, whether you go down to Florida, we have seen the Democratic outperformance of Kamala Harris happening across the political map. What happened last night in Tennessee ain't just staying in Tennessee. It is spreading itself throughout the nation. As I said, to me, looking at these results, it looks like a blue wave is building.
That clip honestly made my whole day. It actually gave me a little hope, and trust me, it only gets better from here, so definitely stick around. Now, just a side note, the version of that clip that aired on CNN earlier this week didn't mention the newest updates, like how several blue states, including Virginia, are now launching their own redistricting efforts to push back against the aggressive gerrymandering coming out of Texas. We covered that in another report, so check that out if you want the full picture. But back to J.D. Vance. With the midterms shaping up to be rough for the GOP right now, Vance might want to start reconsidering his long-term plans. Journalist David Drucker over at The Dispatch certainly thinks so. He wrote a column last night basically warning Vance that his presidential dreams might be slipping away. Then on MSNBC this morning, Drucker doubled down, explaining that J.D. Vance's chances of ever becoming president aren't just shrinking, they're dropping fast. Here's the clip.
David Drucker, you ask in your latest piece for The Dispatch, will Vice President J.D. Vance have a 2028 primary challenger? So, will he?
Yeah, we don't know yet. First time, I have to say, some people might say that it's too early to talk about this, but because President Trump can't run again, we would normally expect to see a very crowded or vigorous primary kick off the day after the midterm elections, which are now less than a year away. And that means that all of the planning that goes into kicking off those campaigns really begins now if it hasn't begun already. But that planning is going to be a lot quieter than usual. And the Republicans that I talked to were telling me that they don't necessarily expect Vance to have much of a primary, if any primary, depending on how the midterm elections unfold. If if we see a midterm election scenario where Republicans lose some seats, even lose the House because of their thin majority, but don't get bludgeoned, then they think that Vice President Vance could have a clear path to the 2028 nomination. And that is because of how well he polls with Republican primary voters right now, and because of how potent they would expect the president's endorsement to be. If it's a bloodbath, then you're going to have a lot of ambitious Republicans looking at this race in the same way you would expect. And some Republicans are telling me that you'll see that in any event. It's sort of my theory of the case is a little off. But this is a very open question, and it's something worth paying attention to.
So, JD, remind us again how that little partnership with Trump is working out for you these days. Do you honestly think you're going to slide into the big chair if he eventually checks out, politically or otherwise? Or are you just waiting around for him to finally shuffle off and leave you holding the keys? Because from the outside, it looks like you've hitched your future to an administration that's coming apart at the seams. The policies, the chaos, all of it. And when voters start pointing fingers about the mess we're in, you really think they're going to spare you just because you were standing a little off to the side? Not likely. And let's be honest here. Even within your own party, you've never exactly been a fan favorite. The whole Vance-Rubio 2028 fantasy? Yeah, good luck selling that. Honestly, JD, you might want to start exploring backup career options now. Personally, I could see you thriving at a place like Sofa You Love. You already spend enough time sitting on one, might as well make it your brand. If you found today's update helpful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next report. Stay informed, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next video.